Good evening. Welcome to another session of the book, The New Path. Today we have a special topic, the very reason why we are on this path, Kriya Yoga. But as always, let's start with a prayer, bringing our hands in front of our hearts in Anjali Mudra, gazing up at the point between the eyebrows, invoking the presence of God and Gurus with us here today. Let us pray together. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, great masters of Kriya Yoga, Jesus Christ, Bhagwan Krishna, Mahavatar Babaji, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswarji, beloved Gurudev, Paramhansa Yogananda Ji, saints and sages of all religions, dear friend and guide, Swami Kriyananda, humbly we bow at thy feet. Dear Master, be with us here today. Help us to live our lives always conscious of thy presence, always in our center, whatever we may be doing. Let us not lose the consciousness of being in our center, keeping our energy, our consciousness uplifted, ever flowing towards thee. We are thine, be thou eternally ours. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, chant.
Life is sweet and death a dream. Oh, life is sweet and death a dream. When thy song flows through me, my Lord, when thy song flows through me, then joy is sweet, sorrow a dream. Then joy is sweet, sorrow a dream. When thy song flows through me, my Lord, when thy song flows through me, then health is sweet, sickness a dream. Then health is sweet, sickness a dream. When thy song flows through me, my Lord, when thy song flows through me, then praise is sweet and blame a dream. Then praise is sweet and blame a dream. When thy song flows through me, my Lord, when thy song flows through me, oh, life is sweet and death a dream. Oh, life is sweet and death a dream. When thy song flows through me, my Lord, when thy song flows through me, then joy is sweet, sorrow a dream. Then joy is sweet, sorrow a dream. When thy song flows through me, my Lord, when thy song flows through dream, then health is sweet, sickness a dream. When thy song flows through me, my Lord, when thy song flows through me, then praise is sweet and blame a dream, then praise is sweet and blame a dream. When thy song flows through me, my Lord, when thy song flows through me, when thy song flows through me, my Lord, when thy song flows through me.
Closing our eyes, sitting up straight, gazing up at the point between the eyebrows. Tune into the song. It says, "O life is sweet, and death is a dream when thy song flows through me. And when thy song flows through me, joy is sweet, sorrow a dream. Praise is sweet, blame a dream. Health is sweet, sickness a dream." We can reverse it and say, sorrow is sweet, joy is a dream. Sickness is sweet, health is a dream. Blame is sweet, praise is a dream. When thy song flows through me, when God's song flows through us strongly, through our astral spine, nothing matters. We are in bliss, absolute bliss. Then whatever happens to us, around us, nothing can shake us. Everything is sweet. And that is where we all want to be. That unique song that God has for each one of us flows through us. And we are completely conscious of only that. And in us, and we are all in absolute bliss. So tuned into that song that we are not even conscious of anything else. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So a very important technique that we just sang the song, "When thy song flows through me." And a yogi, as Master said in Autobiography of a Yogi, that in Kriya Yoga, the yogi takes charge of that energy that is flowing through all of us, the astral spine, and moves it up and down till the energy automatically starts flowing unidirectionally towards the spiritual life. That is God's song flowing through us. So with that, let us first listen to Swami Kriyananda reading this chapter, and then we will discuss this chapter.
Chapter 34, Kriya Yoga. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. The truth in these simple words has been acclaimed equally by great saints of East and West. It is a truth which every devotee would do well to ponder, for among the followers of all religions, it is a common delusion that mere membership in a body of worshippers will be their passport to salvation. Yet Jesus didn't say, "Blessed are my followers, for they shall see God." His message was universal. By the yardstick of inner purity alone is a person's closeness to God determined. What is purity of heart? Jesus defined it effectively elsewhere as the capacity to love God with all one's heart, soul, mind, and strength. Mark 12:30. And why is this capacity called purity? Simply because we belong to God. Worldliness is foreign to our essential nature. How then can one achieve such purity? Is self-effort the answer? Is grace? St. Paul said, "By grace are ye saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast." Ephesians 2:8 and 9. Christian fundamentalists often quote this passage as an argument against self-effort of any kind, and particularly against the practices of yoga. But the book of Revelation states, "And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to give to every man according as his work shall be." Revelation 22:12. Do these scriptural passages contradict one another? Not at all. St. Paul didn't mean that self-effort is futile, but only that God is above bargaining. Outward works in God's name, works in other words such as building schools and hospitals, will not in themselves win his grace. It depends first of all on a person's attitude. Love alone can win him. Like attracts like, and God is love. But as for those inner efforts which lift the soul up toward God, especially the unconditional offering of trust and love, they are essential, else were the scriptures written in vain. It is to this internal work that the book of Revelation is referring above. Footnote: in the New English Bible, St. Paul's words, "By grace are ye saved through faith," are rendered, "For it is by his grace you are saved through trusting him." These words, "through trusting him," help to emphasize the point that the right kind of self-effort is needed. For trust implies an active gift, and not a merely passive acceptance. To develop love for God, the first prerequisite is that no other desire divert its flow toward him. To develop love for God, the first prerequisite is that no other desire divert its flow from him. This, then, is our first spiritual work, to renounce every desire that conflicts with our devotion. We need not so much destroy our desires as rechannel their energies Godward. And it is in this true labor of love that the techniques of yoga are particularly helpful. Wrong desires, it need hardly be added, could never be transmuted by technique alone. But even as running techniques can be useful to those who hope to excel on the track field, so the techniques of yoga can help devotees to control their physical energies and redirect them toward God. Yoga practice by itself won't give us God, but it can help us very much in our efforts to give ourselves to him. The yoga science helps us, in other words, to cooperate with divine grace. Take a simple example. Devotees naturally want to love God. Many, however, have no clear notion of how to go about developing that love. Too often their efforts are merely cerebral, and end, therefore, in frustration. Yet Jesus hinted at a technique when he said, "Blessed are the pure in heart." For, as everyone surely knows who has ever loved, it is in the heart that love is felt, not literally in the physical heart, but in the heart center or spinal nerve plexus, just behind that physical organ. Christian saints have stressed again and again the love of the heart. And yogis claim that love is developed more easily if, instead of merely thinking love, one will direct the feeling of love upward from the heart through the spine to the brain. Take another example. Devotees, in their attempt to achieve inner communion with God, often find those efforts thwarted by restless thoughts. Yogis long ago discovered a technique for overcoming this obstacle. The breath, they said, is intimately related to the mental processes. A restless mind accompanies a restless breath. By simple, effective techniques for calming the breath, they learned how to free the mind for deeper divine communion. Thus, the science of yoga, by its practical application of laws governing man's physical body and nervous system, helps one to become more receptive to the flow of divine grace, in much the same way that proficiency at playing the piano enables one to express musical inspiration freely. And divine communion, as St. Paul said, comes not by overtly pleasing God, but by making oneself receptive to his love. Divine love wants of its own nature to give of itself. In chapter 32, I referred to the ego as a vortex of consciousness, which separates itself from the ocean of awareness by its own centripetal force. Once this vortex is dissolved, I said, self-awareness flows out to embrace infinity. At this point, however, I should explain that to speak of the ego as only one vortex vastly oversimplifies the case. The fact is, egoic awareness gives rise to countless millions of subsidiary vortices, eddies of likes and dislikes, which result in desires, which in turn lead to ego-motivated actions. Every such vortex draws energy to itself, and thereby reaffirms and strengthens the ego from which its energy is derived. Until a desire has been either fulfilled in action or dissipated by wisdom, it may remain dormant in the subconscious like a seed for incarnations. The stronger a mental tendency, the greater the egoic commitment. The amount of energy diverted toward these myriad commitments is incalculably great. Paramahansa Yogananda used to tell us, there is enough latent energy in 1 gram of your body's flesh to supply the city of Chicago with electricity for a week. Yet you imagine yourselves powerless in the face of only a few difficulties. The reason we are unable to tap more of our energy potential is that most of our energy has been already spoken for. It is absorbed by countless eddies of prior ego commitment. I had an interesting experience a few years ago relative to this energy drain. Having, as I thought, seriously overextended myself in my activities, I had reached a point of utter exhaustion. One evening I had a class to give. I was visiting my parents. My mother, seeing how really exhausted I was, urged me, "You mustn't punish yourself like this. Really, this is one evening. You simply have to cancel your class." I couldn't do that, however. I didn't know how to reach all those students and tell them not to come. Half an hour before leaving the house, I lay down on my bed to rest. I didn't sleep, however. Instead, I reviewed in my mind as dispassionately as possible all my reasons for feeling so very tired. The endless activities, daily lectures, classes, a weekly radio program, constant travel, an unceasing stream of correspondence, constant telephone calls, numerous requests or interviews, incessant demands for personal decisions from people who could have made just as good decisions on their own. As I recalled to my mind each of these drains on my energy, my first reaction was instinctively to reject it. "Oh, no, it's just too much." And then, in return, came the dispassionate challenge. Is it? It's a fact of your life now, whether you like it or not. Why not simply accept it? In each case, accepting this advice, I felt as though I had closed some psychic door through which energy had been pouring out of me in my anxiety to push the unwanted experience out of my life. As each door closed, I found more energy welling up within me. The results were extraordinary. By the end of that half hour, my fatigue had completely vanished, and I was fairly bursting with enthusiasm to give that class. My mother, seeing me now, exclaimed, "What a wonderful sleep you've had. You look completely refreshed." Interestingly enough, the subject of my class that evening was energization. It was perhaps the best class I have ever given on this subject. Afterwards, I still felt so full of energy that I stayed up until 2 o'clock the next morning, talking to people after class, reading, and then meditating. And the energy that I rechanneled that day must have been only a small fraction of the energy preempted by millions of other vortices that had formed over many incarnations in my subconscious mind. If only we could channel all our energy in a single direction. If only, for example, we could learn with our whole being to say yes to life, instead of mixing every yes with a no or a maybe. Our powers of accomplishment would be greater than most people imagine possible. It is important, however, at the same time to channel our energy wisely, for if we use it to achieve goals that are external to our true nature, our very success will bring disappointment in the end. To understand how to utilize the enormous amounts of energy rightly that would be available to us once we knew how to access them, we must understand how energy functions in the body. Its main channel is the spine. The spine, like a bar magnet, has its north-south orientation. The North Pole being at the top of the head, to which the spiritual eye serves as a conduit, and the South Pole at the base of the spine in the coccyx. In a bar magnet, all the molecules, each with its own north-south polarity, are oriented in one direction. In an unmagnetized bar, the molecules, though similarly polarized, are turned every which way, and thereby in effect cancel one another out. Most people similarly lack the dynamic power one associates with human greatness. They lack it not because they have less energy than the greatest genius, but simply because the so-called molecules of their subconscious tendencies, desires, aversions, attachments, pull them in conflicting directions and thereby cancel one another out, even as do the molecules in an ordinary bar of metal. A steel bar becomes magnetized not by the introduction of any new element, but simply by the realignment of its molecules. Human magnetism, similarly, depends on realigning in a single direction the molecules of tendencies and desires, so that they no longer conflict with, but support one another. Limited power can be achieved for a time by directing at least some of our tendencies one-pointedly toward any goal. Many modern psychiatrists, in fact, recognizing this truth, recommend that people seek fulfillment by outwardly releasing their subconscious repressions. The deeper realities of human nature, however, and the way our very bodies, reflecting those realities, are made, makes it impossible for us to bring all our molecules of subconscious tendencies into alignment until they all become adjusted to a north-south polarity in the spine. This is to say that every desire and aspiration must flow upward toward the doorway to the infinite, the spiritual eye. Likes, dislikes, and their resultant attractions and aversions, all of which induce desires and repulsions, are the root cause of our bondage. The progressive stages of involvement with Maya may be traced through the progressive function of human consciousness. Mon, Buddhi, Ahankara, and Chitta, mind, intellect, ego, and feeling. Paramhansa Yogananda illustrated these basic functions by a horse seen in a mirror. The mirror is the mind, mon, which shows us the image as it appears to us through the senses. The mind alone, however, cannot qualify or define that image. Buddhi, intellect, then defines what is seen, informing our consciousness that is a horse. Ahankara, ego, then appears, declaring, that is my horse. Up to this point, we are not necessarily yet bound by the thought of ownership. The identification, though personal, may still remain more or less abstract. If then citta, feeling, comes onto the scene saying, how happy I am to see my horse, true ego bondage begins. Citta is our emotional reaction, including likes and dislikes, desires and aversions. It is the true source of ego bondage and the essence of all delusion. Thus the ancient classical exponent of the yoga science, Patanjali, defined yoga itself as the neutralization of the vortices, vrittis of citta. Footnote, Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga Sutras 1-2. Citta is usually translated mind stuff. Paramhansa Yogananda himself, in his autobiography, accepts this translation. But the translation fails in specificity, and I cannot but suspect that his editors applied it, unnoticed by him, from other recognized translations. Yogananda himself, in a series of classes on Patanjali, and in private discussions with me, defined the word more exactly as I have given it here. Vritti, moreover, doesn't mean fluctuation or waves, as it is often translated, but whirlpool, which more graphically describes drawing feelings inward to a center in the ego. Yogananda once told me, when I applied to the Maharaja of Kashim Bazar for permission to transfer my school to his Ranchi property, he asked a group of pundits to test my knowledge of spiritual matters, since my request involved forming a religious institution. I could see those scholars all set for a theological bullfight, so I turned the tables on them. Let us talk only, I said, of truths we have actually realized. An ability to quote scripture is no proof of wisdom. I then asked them a question for which I knew no answer can be found in the scriptures. We read, I said, of the 4 aspects of human consciousness, mon, buddhi, ahankara, and citta. We also read that these 4 aspects have their respective centers in the human body. Can you tell me where in the body each center is located? Well, they were completely stumped. All they knew was what they had read. I then explained mon, mind, is centered at the top of the head. Buddhi, intellect, at the point between the eyebrows. Ahankara, ego, in the medulla oblongata at the base of the brain. And citta, feeling, in the heart. Footnote, I have referred earlier to the fact that love is experienced in the heart center. It may be of interest to note also that intense intellectual effort is often accompanied by a slight frown, evidence that energy is being directed to the point between the eyebrows. Again, note how pride tends to draw the head backward, a sign that energy is being focused in the medullary region. That is why we speak of a proud person as looking down his nose at others. A bow, on the other hand, which in every culture is a gesture of humility and respect, is suggestive of a release of tension in the medullary region. Back to the text. Blessed are the pure in heart, Jesus said, for they shall see God. The teachings of the Galilean master and those of India's great yogis were cut from the same cloth of self-realization. Likes and dislikes in the heart manifest as vortices of desire and aversion. Only when these have been dissolved, in short, when the heart has been purified of every downward flowing tendency in the spine, can self-realization be attained. The vortex of ego itself is then dissipated with relative ease, for without objective attachments, the ego soon loses its centrifugal power and is dispersed at last by the powerful upward flow of energy which accompanies divine inspiration. Most efforts to transform oneself involve a laborious struggle to correct an endless array of individual faults, a tendency to gossip, over-attachment to sweets, physical laziness, anger, greed, and a host of other weaknesses. The devotee must of course fight his battles as they present themselves to him. To attempt to win the whole war in this piecemeal fashion, however, would be like trying separately to realign every molecule in a bar of steel. Purely psychological efforts at self-transformation are a never-ending task. Once one has finally succeeded in turning a few mental molecules in the right direction, there is no guarantee they'll remain that way after one leaves them to work on the next lot. The way to magnetize a bar of steel is to cause its molecules to turn in a south-north direction. One way of doing so is to place it close to an already magnetized bar. Spiritually speaking, a person can be magnetized similarly by the company and influence of saints, and particularly in close attunement with his own guru. For the guru's special job is to uplift his disciples' consciousness. Because his energy and awareness flow naturally up the spine toward the spiritual eye, attunement with him generates in the disciple a similar upward flow of energy and awareness. Another way of magnetizing a bar of metal is to introduce into it an electric current flowing in a single direction. The Guru's blessings, similarly, can be augmented by the disciple's own efforts. Any disciple, indeed, who relies only passively on the Guru's blessings will make but negligible progress. Man is, after all, not inert metal. He can and must cooperate in the process of his transformation. Moreover, he can, and often does, by disobedience and unwillingness, resist the Guru's influence. As Yogananda put it, the path is 25% the disciple's own effort, 25% the Guru's effort on his behalf, and 50% the grace of God. The Guru needs the disciple's cooperation, and the disciple can cooperate best when he understands how this magnetic influence actually works in the body, raising subtle currents of energy through the spine to the brain. Cooperation with the Guru's efforts and with divine grace means doing what one can personally to direct energy upwards through the spine. The correlation between spiritual awakening and this upward flow of energy can be observed to some extent in ordinary human experience as well. Any increase of happiness or inspiration, for example, or any firm resolution to do something wholesome and positive, produces an upward flow of energy through the spine to the brain. One may even find himself standing or sitting more upright, holding his head higher, looking upward, turning the corners of his mouth up slightly in a smile, and feeling lighter on his feet. On the other hand, accompanying depression or discouragement is a corresponding downward flow of energy toward the base of the spine and away from the brain. One may even slump forward a little, look downward, depress the corners of his mouth, and actually feel physically a little heavier. Spiritual awakening takes place when all one's energy flows upward toward the spiritual eye. Hence the saying of Jesus, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy strength," that is, with all thy energy. We see here the basic purpose of Kriya Yoga. This upward flow is obstructed in most people by countless eddies of citta or feeling. Once these eddies form in the heart, they are distributed along the spine according to their anticipated levels of fulfillment. The lower the level, the more materialistic the desire. The higher the level, the more spiritual. These eddies or vrittis of feeling can be dissipated by directing through the spine a strong enough flow of energy to neutralize their centripetal force. Numerous yoga techniques have for their main objective the awakening of this energy flow. Of all such yoga techniques, so taught Paramahansa Yogananda and his line of gurus, the most effective because the most central and direct in its application is Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga involves deliberately directing a flow of energy through the spine, thereby realigning in a single south-north direction every molecule or tendency. The Kriya technique, so our line of gurus said, was the one taught to Arjuna in ancient times by Krishna. And Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita states that he bestowed this technique on humanity in an incarnation long prior to the one in which he taught Arjuna. Of all the techniques of yoga, Kriya Yoga is not only the most ancient, but the most central and essential. Kriya Yoga directs energy lengthwise around the spine, gradually neutralizing there the eddies of citta. At the same time, it strengthens the nerves in the spine and brain to receive cosmic currents of energy and consciousness. Yogananda called Kriya the supreme science of yoga. Beside it, other yoga techniques, most of which work on calming the breath and concentrating the mind, though important in themselves, Yogananda also taught a number of them, must be classed as subsidiary. Other aspects there are to Kriya Yoga that relate to the subjective reactive process, but I do not feel it necessary to burden the reader's mind at this point with this long explanation. Yogananda often said that Kriya Yoga strengthens one in whatever path, whether that of devotion, discrimination, or service, Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, Judaic, or Muslim, one is inclined by temperament or upbringing to follow. Once there came to Master's Ranchi school a visitor who for 20 years had been practicing bhakti yoga, the path of single-minded devotion. Though deeply devoted, he had never yet experienced the Lord's blissful response. Kriya Yoga would help you, the Master earnestly suggested to him, but the man didn't want to be disloyal to his own path. Kriya Yoga won't conflict with your present practices, Master insisted. It will only deepen them for you. Still the man hesitated. Let me explain, the Master finally said. You are like a man who for 20 years has been trying to get out of a room through the walls, the floor, the ceiling. Kriya Yoga will simply show you where the door is. There is no conflict in that kind of aid with your own devotional path. To pass through the doorway you must also do so with devotion. The man relented at last and accepted initiation. Hardly a week later he received his first deep experience of God. I wasn't sent to the West by Christ and the great masters of India, Yogananda often told his audiences, to dogmatize you with a new theology. Jesus himself asked Babaji to send someone here to teach you the science of Kriya Yoga, that people might learn how to commune with God directly. I want to help you toward the attainment of actual experience of Him, through your daily practice of Kriya Yoga. He added, the time for knowing God has come.
Chapter 35.
Okay. So we saw the last chapter, the last line of the last chapter was, as Jesus put it, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And in this chapter, Swamiji starts with the same line. It's very important. And he goes on to explain through this chapter. And in fact, he comes to the Kriya Yoga itself to the last of that. He creates a base for how important Kriya is in anybody's spiritual journey. In fact, Master said that one comes to Kriya, one is even interested to for getting Kriya or in Kriya after going through various other things. You have maybe in this incarnation or in multiple incarnations having, sought other things. And then the last step is Kriya. So, those who have already come, that is why when Krishna said that out of thousands, one seeks me, and out of thousands who seek me, one finds me. To which Master said, our percentages are better because we are almost there, right? If not in this incarnation, but not probably another million if we are making that effort. That is why here he talks about grace and self-effort. Both is needed. It's not like, oh, I have a guru, now my guru will take care. So he will, and we will talk about that later, where he's talking about the cooperation. We have to cooperate with the grace. And for that, our effort is also needed. So, with that, we can cut out those millions and probably just, if not, as I said, if not this lifetime, then a little bit more. That's it, a few of them, that's it. So here he says, again and again, he's specifying that when Jesus said this very specifically, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And Swamiji goes on to say, when people say that only Jesus, will give you this thing, just have trust in him, faith in him. But here he's saying, that's what he's saying. Swamiji has written, Jesus didn't say, blessed are my followers, for they shall see God. You follow me and everything is fine. I'll take care of everything. No, he said, purity of heart is important. His message is universal. As I said, the last class of Sanatan Dharma it's not a particular religion, right? It is the way of life. It is universal, which means we are born on this planet or we are born on some other planet. If you want to find God, that is the only way. And what is that only way? To have the purity of heart. And by the yardstick of inner purity alone is a person's closeness to God determined. That is what Patanjali said, right? He's given the Yoga Sutra, which he talks about, Swamiji, the Yoga's Chitta Vritti Nirodha. He's also talking about heart's feeling. So he's saying, what is purity of heart? Jesus defined it effectively elsewhere as a capacity to love God with all one's heart, soul, mind, and strength. Now, this is very interesting. When when a lover tells, his sweetheart, he says, I love you with all my heart and I love my mind and my soul. He never says strength. That seems very odd, right? What do you mean by strength? You don't need strength to love somebody. So why strength? Again, later we will explore that. But here he's saying, why is this capacity called purity? Simply because we belong to God. Worldliness is foreign to our essential nature. So sweet. That is all. Anything that is added is adulteration. Any other desire we have, as Master said, that the pathway to God, it's very, very narrow. We can't have multiple things there. It can be either God or other. So in the Mahabharata, That is very interesting. That is why it's very important to understand when we say that it's okay, I love God, but why not? Can't I have this desire and that I can manage everything together? But in Mahabharata, when Krishna goes to Duryodhan, they are about to start the fight, but he says, okay, let me just one last time give it a try. And he knew it's not going to happen, but still he's giving the opportunity. And he goes to Duryodhan and he says, look, these Pandavas are also princes, right? So they are not demanding their kingdom back, nothing. Just give them 5 villages. They will take care of it. I mean, they will not come back and fight with you for anything. I take guarantee for that. Just 5 villages. And Duryodhan says that I will not give even as much land that can, rest on the needle top. Even that much I will not give. And master called Duryodhan, sorry, he called him King Material Desire. So the material desire will never give an opportunity for the upward flowing current to exist, for any spiritually motivating things to happen. They can't coexist. And that is what he's written here. So he's also going on telling again, as the last chapter, that the Bible also tells the same things, right? The self-effort is also needed, and the grace, the faith is needed. But they're being misinterpreted, like how St. Paul said, by grace are ye saved through faith. And then Christian fundamentalists often quote this passage as an argument against self-effort of any kind, and particularly against the practice of yoga. So they say, no, you cannot do anything. The faith is enough. So here, Swamiji is saying that outward work in God's name, works, in other words, such as building, social service, building schools, hospitals, will not in themselves win his grace. This is very important. He says it depends first of all on a person's attitude. Love alone can win him. Attitude of what? I mean, we are doing, if we do go about doing social service, but with a thing that, with the thing that I am doing it. No, I am giving this person so much. I do so much of charity work, and if that is kind of reinforcing the ego, then it is not really worth it. What we are doing. Now, so anything we do, I mean, we serve our guru, everything. But Swamiji always said, it is not what we do that is important, but how we do it, right? What is the attitude with which we do it? So here again, he's saying, and love alone can win. Like attracts like, and God is love. But as for those inner efforts which lift the soul up toward God, especially the unconditional offering of trust and love, they are essential. Else, were the scriptures written in vain? So it is to this internal work that the book of Revelation is referring. And how do we develop love for God? The first prerequisite, Swamiji writes, is that no other desire divert its flow from him. This then is our first spiritual work, he's saying. We have to ensure that nothing is taking our love for God, us away from our love for God. So always be watchful. And it is a habit, as he says, to renounce every desire that conflicts with our devotion. We need not so much destroy our desires as rechannel their energies Godward. It is all the work of energy. So we can't suppress it. So if I say, no, I'll only love God. So if I have desire for this or that, I say, no, I suppress. It will not work. At some point, it will come bursting out. As Swamiji, I think in one of his talk, he said that, Master, I think, used to say that it is better to be in the world and think of ashram than being in an ashram and thinking of the world, right? So that is why it's very important to watch what is happening here, what is really, and it is a habit, it's a tendency. And suppressing, as I said, will never work. what do? We rechannel it. How do we rechannel is what we will figure out. And he says it is in this true labor of love that the techniques of yoga are particularly helpful. Wrong desires, it need hardly be added, could never be transmuted by technique alone. But even as, for running, we need various techniques. For everything, techniques are helpful. Yoga, again, by itself won't give us God, but it can help us very much in our effort to give ourselves to Him. Yoga science helps us, in other words, cooperate with divine grace. So we know that, the philosophies of India, the three main philosophies of the six, the three are Sankhya, Yoga, and Vedanta. Sankhya tells us what we need to get away from, right? We know that this is not working, this world is not working, I need to get away. Why do I need to get away? And Vedanta is, okay, I need to get away from everything that is keeping me bound. To what? If I get away to what? Is what Vedanta. That is the end of all knowledge, and the end of Veda. That's God, right? Yoga gives us, okay, I want to get away. Now, how? Yoga gives us a technique to be free. I need to reach from here to here. Yoga is the pathway, gives us the pathway to that. So as he's saying, it is not giving us God, but it gives us the way towards, we start progressing. That is, it shows this is how you go. So he's saying, Jesus, again, he's saying that Jesus hinted at a technique when he said, blessed are the pure in heart. So this is the main work we all have to work on. Like how in Holy Science, Sri Yukteswar also says that there are 8 obstacles to us being free, and they are in the heart. There are 8 impediments that are binding the heart. The moment we remove those 8 impediments, we are free. And he said that one can't keep even a step forward on the spiritual path without the natural love of the heart, which all of us have. It's just that we are bound. And what are those 8? Like he said, it's pride of pedigree, it's like shame, it's all those things, pride of pedigree, shame, various other things. I'll put it in the group later. I'm forgetting right now suddenly, right? So if the moment we remove that, so it is the main work, as we are talking about, is in the heart. This is where it all starts. Where Swamiji writes about Man, Buddhi, Ahankar, and Chitta. So, and Master has given this in Autobiography of a Yogi, that, with the analogy of a horse, where he says that the mind is just a mirror. It sees something, it is not able to even decipher what it is. It's just showing something is there. The intellect, which is mind, is the top of the head. Intellect is the point between the eyebrows, the spiritual and eyes. And the intellect says that, oh, that's a horse. Then the ego, which is at the medulla, says, that's my horse. And even here he's saying it's very abstract. It's like, yeah, that's my responsibility. It's mine. I have to feed it and I have to take care. It's not yet binding. When the chitta comes into the play and says, oh, how happy I am to see my horse, is where we are bound. Oh, and we can replace that with anything. Horse with my child, my house, my car, my friends, my, and how happy I am when I have it, and then how sad I am when I don't have it, how sad I am when somebody else has it. And that is where all that flux starts. The vortices start here, and that is why the work has to start here. So the yogis claim that love is developed more easily. Instead of merely thinking love, one will direct the feeling of love upward from the heart through the spine to the brain. This is very important. Heart, as Swamiji, when he's talking about spine, he's talking about the astral spine, right? And heart is an important chakra. It's a heart chakra, Anahat chakra. And this, as I said, this is where it all starts. The energy moving down is emotion. And when the energy is moving up towards the spiritualized devotion. So a yogi takes charge, and it's the heart chakra is also when we talk about Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga, this is a place of pranayama. The heart chakra is the region of pranayama. What is pranayama? Control on energy, right? On the life forces. And so, as I said, the yogi is very aware. So whenever there is something that is pulling his energy, anything towards the materialistic desires or anger or anything, the energy starts moving down. The yogi's job is to take charge of that energy, pranayama, take charge of that energy and bring it up towards the spiritual eye. That is a constant effort we have to keep making, right? So he's again giving take another examples. Devotees in their attempt to achieve inner communion with God often find those efforts thwarted by restless thoughts. Does anyone have that during meditation? Yogis long ago discovered a technique for overcoming this obstacle. The breath, they said, is intimately related to the mental processes. And what is the technique? He says, a restless mind accompanies a restless breath. By simple, effective techniques for calming the breath, they learn how to free the mind for deeper divine communion. Master, in the first class we go to, when we come on this path, he gives us a technique of Hong Saw, right? And that is a very, it's a pratyahara technique for interiorization of the mind. And as we talk about this, that breath, because if I were to sit down and say, oh, I'm going to meditate and I'm not going to think any thoughts, boy, that's when everything starts flooding in, right? And so the yogis long now, they have done research in very recent, the scientists have proved that how it works. But yogis, thousands of years ago said there's a close connection between breath, mind, and heart, right? So when we are restless, the mind, when we feel there's a fear or anger or any restlessness in the heart starts palpitating, the mind is disturbed, we start breathing fast. And if we are sitting listening to some music, that we like, soothing music, automatically the mind settles down, the breath settles down, the heart settles down. Because there is, even though mind and heart are internal to us, we have no control over them. Breath, which is an external agent that comes in, that we can control these two. So, the moment we start, breath has this ability, the moment we start watching it, it starts settling down. So by just watching that breath, slowly it starts becoming shallower. And so it has an effect on the mind and the heart. They all slow down till the purpose is to reach a state where there's no need to breathe, reaching a state of breathlessness, not holding the breath, but automatically the yogi comes to that stage. So he says, thus the science of yoga, by its practical application of laws governing man's physical body and nervous system, helps to become more receptive to the flow of divine grace. In much the same way, the proficiency at playing piano enables one to express musical inspiration freely. So it's not just techniques. So there is a science behind it, and then there is an art. Art we develop how? When somebody plays, when we look at a master playing, any master playing piano, it's taken years of hard work. That where he comes to a stage where it's it's smooth. I mean, just looking at him, it looks so easy. It takes years of practice. We're doing a Hong Sa every day, sitting down, making that effort to sit down, meditate, doing our Kriya over a period of time. The science and art are both important for us to progress, right? This is divine communion, as St. Paul said, comes not by overtly pleasing God, but by making us fully receptive to his love. Divine love wants of its own nature to give of itself. We have to be there to receive it. As Swamiji once, when he was in his master's ashram, and master was somewhere, I mean, Swamiji was just looking at him and thinking in his mind that, give me the ability to love you the way you love me. It was on his mind only. He had not said it out. Master just was coming towards him. Swamiji bent down to touch his feet. And when he came up, and Master looked at him and said, how can a cup hold an ocean? So if our cup is only this much, the grace is constantly pouring. It will all keep pouring out. We have to expand the cup. We have to expand, keep expanding till, we ourselves are the ocean, the huge cups that can hold the ocean, the level where the self-realized masters are, right? So it is a law, actually. That's what it is. This is all it's a law. And in chapter 32, I refer to the ego as a vortex of consciousness which separates itself from the ocean of awareness by its own centripetal force. It has its own, it's a pole, right? And he says, at this point, however, I should explain that to speak of the ego as only one vortex vastly oversimplifies the case. The fact is, ego awareness gives rise to countless millions of subsidiary vortices, eddies of likes and dislikes, which result in desires, which in turn lead to ego-motivated actions. Every such vortex draws energy to itself and thereby reaffirms and strengthens the ego from which its energy is derived until now this is what. So ego, our astral spine, there is an astral spine where all the chakras are distributed. Ego is the main guy, right? He holds that pole, and all these other chakras are in part of that system that ego has created. And it all starts here. The desire can be even a desire for an ice cream cone. Once Master said that all desires, as he has written, until a desire has either been fulfilled in action or dissipated in wisdom, it may remain dormant in the subconscious like a seed for incarnations. When Master said this, Swamiji got scared. He said, even a desire for ice cream cones, sir? Master said, yes, even a desire for ice cream cone. And ice cream can be a small desire. We don't know what all we are carrying. And, and all of this. So from the heart, the whole feeling, the ego gets involved. We start acting on that. And the more we act, the more and more we act, we start developing a tendency towards habits are formed. And then we carry that from lifetime to lifetime. It's all there. Sometimes it's dormant. We are not acting on it yet. But there is no guarantee when, the right environment is there, and it can be habit for anything. I mean, anything and everything. I mean, we can't even think about it. So, and based on what kind of desire it is, as Master Swamiji has written, it's all distributed in various chakras. The chakras are the memory banks, right? They are carrying everything with them. And so he's saying that so either we fulfill the desire, but there is no guarantee that once I fulfilled it, it doesn't develop into something else from there. It's okay. But he's saying either this particular, for an ice cream cone, I keep eating so much that, finally I say, I don't like it anymore. Either one way to do that, or through wisdom, through understanding that, do I really need it? Just trying to understand. And, again, it's all about attitude. Suppression never works. That's very important. We have to reach a stage where if I get it, I enjoy it. If I don't get it, it's okay. I mean, it's not such a big, we have to reach that stage, and it's a hard work to reach that stage. He says, stronger a mental tendency, the greater the egoic commitment. So again, Master Paramahamsa Yogananda said, there is enough latent energy in 1 gram of your body's flesh to supply the city in 1 gram, to supply the city of Chicago with electricity for a week. Yogananda said, and we also have the great formula, E is equal to mc square. Energy is equal to mass multiplied by a constant square, which is a very vast number. So we have that kind of energy in every gram of our body, yet we don't feel it. We feel so weak. We feel so, tired at the end of the day. Why? Because he's saying The reason we are unable to tap more of our energy potential is that most of our energy are already spoken for. So as I said, all these, the desires, and they are all distributed in all our chakra system. So based on how, if it's a small desire, it starts creating a vortex around it. So there is this desire for, say, ice cream cone. And then on every time I go back to ice cream cone, every time I see ice cream cone, I want to have, I'm creating energy pattern around it. Right. And then there might be some other desires which are like, if I don't get it, my life is useless, that kind of things. They will be big. And so they have bigger energy vortices around them. So the energy is constantly coming into the body through medulla. Master called it mouth of God, into our astral body. But they're all spoken for based on how much energy are spoken for, how much desires, how much tendencies we have. They all start. It's like when the river, there is a river bed, and there are all these sticks and various other debris in the river. Water is coming, and then starts swirling around, or sticks swirling around. It's not flowing nicely, so it's keeping on getting stuck around someplace, right? There are a lot of places that happen. So that is what is happening. So that is why we don't have access to that amount of energy which we are all entitled to. For the great masters, it's one beautiful astral body, right? So there is no blockages, nothing. It's like it's a pure channel. That is why they are pure channels. There's no them in that process. The divine is flowing through them pure. There is nothing, as we just read, there is no adulteration, right? So he says, I couldn't do that. Okay. And then he talks about how he was not feeling he was feeling very tired one day, and his mother said, this can be our takeaway. When Swamiji was feeling very tired, so he went over his all his things. Why was he feeling tired? What was this whole thing about? He says, I reviewed in my mind dispassionately all possible reasons for me feeling tired. And he says, oh, all these activities, constant travel, oh, that's too much. Numerous requests for correspondence, meeting, interview, oh, that's too much. And as he says, as I recall to my mind, each of these drains on my energy, my first reaction, oh no, that's just too much. And then he says, this wisdom comes in, right? The intellect says, is it? Accept it. It's a fact of your life now, whether you like it or not. Why not simply accept it? And he says immediately he started closing doors to those things that were draining him. And then he was so fresh that, he says after that, for till 2:00 the next morning, I didn't need to sleep. He didn't need to sleep. This can be our takeaway. Whenever we are feeling tired, just review what is making me tired and why. The main thing is the resistance. We are resisting, we are blocking that energy somewhere. There is tension. In tension, there is a block in the energy flow. That is why the energization exercises are so important, because even though if right now we will say, oh, I'm feeling very relaxed, are we really relaxed? There is still some tension blocked somewhere. That is why when we do, this energization exercises, when we tense with will, slow, low, medium, high, vibrate, and then gradually relax and completely relax. And that is why Master gave the technique, and he said that the one of the main important laws of that is tense with will, relax and feel. That relaxing and feeling that relaxation is very important. When you completely let go is when everything is, it's drained off. All tensions are drained off, and there is actually relaxation in that. So that is what Swamiji mentally also, what he did just now, brought everything to that, oh, this is giving me tension, this is, and then he let all of them go, and he was completely relaxed. In that, there was an energy flow, and which kept him going for a long time. He said, the energy that I rechanneled that day must have been only a small fraction, little bit more. I thought I would finish it fast. Okay. The energy that rechanneled that day must have been only a small fraction of the energy preempted by millions of other. So I said this is just one example. We don't know how many vortices we have, and it is not possible. Again, he says that he keeps giving that example of bar magnet. So it is not possible for us one by one to work on, one this vortice I have, one this problem. And he's saying by the time we have started working on this, something else would be turning back. And that is why he said, first of all, what blocks energy is when we keep saying no, no, no to the resistance. That's why he said, say yes to life. Things work out. Even if you don't know how to do it at that moment, he says, just say yes to life. And then you find that things just start working out. Somebody will come with a help, something. So that resistance has to go. And then he's talking about energy's main channel is the spine. As I said, it's the astral spine. It's like a bar magnet. Again, he's using the analogy of a bar magnet. The bar magnet is magnetized because there is, all its molecules are aligned in this north-south direction. And any other iron bar, why isn't it magnetized yet? It has a potential, but it is not magnetized yet because all its the molecules are, aligned every which way. So how do you magnetize a bar magnet, an iron bar? There are two ways, right? One is placing them next to a bar magnet. So when we place it next to a bar magnet, what happens? This also gets magnetized. Now that is where he brings this, using the steel bar magnet analogy. He says that we ourselves are all energy bodies, right? And so if we are all energy bodies, there's an astral spine, there is a magnetic field around us. So why aren't we as magnetic? When we are completely magnetic, we can magnetize success, we can magnetize intuition, we can magnetize everything. But we aren't yet because of our molecules, everything is, every which direction the energies is spoken for, because of desires, karmas, tendencies. So what do? We place ourselves. What is that strong bar magnet? Is a guru. And we place ourselves next to the guru. His magnetism, through his magnetism, he is able to, because his energy is flowing so strongly. The moment we place ourselves next to him, our energy also starts. He is able to do it. But he again says that we can only do it. He can only do it if we are cooperating with that. So that's where our 25%, he is given the formula 25, 25, 50, right? 25% is our effort, where we place ourselves next to this strong bar magnet, the guru, and allow him to transform us, right? And then, the moment we do all the things that the guru, that's why he's talking about attunement here. It's very important that we attune our consciousness, we allow him to work through us, and the 25%, if we do, 25% the guru does on our behalf. And then the 50%, the God's grace flows through the guru. The 75% guru is bringing that in the equation. We just have to do the 25%, which is placing us, cooperating with his effort, what the effort he's putting on our behalf. And that is how we will be free. And the other thing, then he goes on to say that spiritual awakening, when we spoke about when Jesus Christ said that, love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and strength. This is where the spiritual awakening takes place, when all our energies flows unidirectionally upward towards the spiritual eye. So this is why the energy part was the strength part is what he was talking. All strength is energy. When we bring all that energy up from the heart, not allowing it to flow down, and bring it up in pranayam towards the spiritual eye. Now, here is where he introduces the Kriya Yoga. So as I said, a bar magnet, there are two ways to magnetize a bar magnet. One is keeping it, a steel bar. Now, one is keeping it next to the bar magnet, the strong bar magnet. The other one is to send energy through it unidirectionally, right? So that, and then the steel bar develops this thing. So same thing in us, when we move that energy, up and down the spine through Kriya Yoga, it comes to a stage when the energy starts flowing unidirectionally through the Sushumna up towards the spiritual eye. And that is when the yogi is magnetized, is spiritualized. And here again, he says that Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita gave it to Arjuna. And he says in Bhagavad Gita that it was I, as Prithu, gave it to the first man, Manu. So it is an ancient technique. Kriya is a very ancient technique, which, in olden days used to be, kept a secret. Only the rishis, the ones who had renunciated the world, living in caves, could practice. And then during the dark ages, it vanished. Or, it was with very few. The rishis were there in all ages, whatever, irrespective of the age. Now, in the ascending Dwapar Yuga, Babaji, Mahavatar Babaji revived. I mean, he gave it to Lahiri Mahashaya and kind of revived it, right? And also gave him the permission. He allowed him to give it freely to those who are seeking sincerely. And that is how it is back. And we don't have to, just go and live in the caves to receive Kriya, but we can even being householders. And that is why he told him, Lahiri Mahashaya wanted to stay back. He says, no, you go back, to show the world that, now we are in the ascending Dwapar Yuga. You need to be in this world, but not of this world. You have to be inner renunciates. The heart, again, the work is at the heart level. Purifying the heart is more important. What attitude are you being there in this world? How are you living this world? So he's saying that of all the techniques of yoga, Kriya is not only the most ancient, but the most central and essential. And he's saying Kriya Yoga directs energy lengthwise around the spine, gradually neutralizing. So as I said, individually we can keep working one by one, and by the time we finished with one, the other is again turning back. But Kriya is like, as I again gave the analogy of the river, there are all these vortices, all these sticks sticking around. But when the rain comes, the nice torrential rain, like how today it was raining here, then in that there's then the water flow, it just takes everything along. All these sticks and pebbles and all just get flushed away, right? That is what Kriya does. When the yogi sits and moves the energy up and down his spine, what happens? The spine becomes magnetized, and in that, all that energy that we keep expending out, they start reversing, and there is a torrential flow of energy up the spine, and in that, all these little vortices, big vortices, get flushed away and get move towards a spiritual eye. And that is why Master called it the airplane route to God. So it's like you don't need even to know what all tendencies I'm coming. It just gets flushed out. So he says Kriya directs energy lengthwise around the spine, gradually neutralizing there the eddies of chitta. At the same time, it strengthens the nerves in the spine and brain to receive cosmic current of energy and consciousness. Master said a nervous system of a normal person is like a 50-watt bulb. And when the cosmic consciousness descends, I mean, how can a 50-watt bulb, it's like, how can it take that kind of energy, right? So for that, one needs to prepare. And that is why it takes some time for us also. You don't get Kriya Diksha as soon as you walk into the center. It takes time. You have to go through various levels to prepare the body to receive Kriya, right? And so it strengthens after we receive Kriya, it strengthens for all that consciousness to descend. Yogananda called Kriya the supreme science of yoga. Beside that, all other pranayam techniques we do, Anulom, they are all secondary. They indirectly work with the prana, but Kriya is the one that directly, it's also a pranayam technique, but it works directly on the prana. So because that is where you take charge of that prana and work with it. So he says other aspects there are to Kriya that relate, and he says Kriya is also it neutralizes the reactive process. He says, and I'll not talk about it right now because this book is for general public. So we talk about that when we receive Kriya or we are in level 4. So he says this, I'm not saying that right now. And it is again, Kriya is universal. Lahiri Mahashaya had disciples who were Muslims, and he said, you do your practices. Kriya actually improves what you're already doing. So you can be doing your practices. Muslims should, he said, you should do your, all the praying and all the 5 times that you do. Hindu should do his things. And Kriya, the Kriya just improves on it. The whole point is it is universal. It is for everyone. Okay, and again, he talks about that how somebody who was a bhakti yogi and how Kriya helped. He said the very important point, you are like a man who is trying to get out of a room through the walls, the floor, the ceiling. Kriya is simply will show you the door. There is no conflict in that kind of aid with your own devotional path. Nothing, it doesn't conflict with anything. To pass through the doorway, you must also do so with devotion. Again, Kriya is a technique, but only technique is not going to get us God. It has to be, Master said, Kriya plus devotion works like mathematics. It never fails. It's a formula, right? So devotion is very important in this formula. So, and again, he's saying that I wasn't sent here to convert anyone or dogmatize anyone. He was sent for a very important purpose, to spread the science of Kriya Yoga. The people must learn how to commune with God directly. Very important. He says the time for knowing God has come. So we shouldn't waste our time in, useless things, but start, those of us who already have Kriya, should keep at it and try to find God. I mean, Master said in this lifetime, try to get Nirvikalp Samadhi. So there's a lot of work that we need to do with, again, that's our 25%, so that the 75% can work for us, which the Guru brings into the equation. So thank you for joining, and thank you. We will meet next Friday.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you, Jen.